Okay, we're back factoring trinomials, but this time a is equal to a number bigger than 1. Before we had a equals 1. What this means is the number in front of x squared is not a 1 anymore. It's some other number. Okay, so this one has a 2. We call these numbers a, b, and c in a quadratic expression, and this time a is bigger than 1. So some teachers like students to have to guess and check. We know there's going to be x's in here, but somebody's going to have to get a 2, either that one or this one. Okay, and these numbers in here are going to have to be either 1 and 15 or 15 and 1 or 3 and 5 or 5 and 3. And so what a lot of teachers would say is just guess and check till you finally get it right. I really hate doing that, especially if it's a bigger, more complicated one. I like to have a process that works. And so I'm going to show you one that does. Some people don't like that, but that's okay. So I'm going to get this set up here so I'm ready to go. Here's what you do first in this process. Take the first number and the last number, 2 and 15 in this case, and multiply them together and write all of the factor pairs that multiply together to get that number. Okay, so there's all the factor pairs. Okay, now what I'm going to look for now is a pair of numbers over here that adds together to get the middle number, 11x. Why adds? I was told right here, if that's a plus, I'm looking for a pair that adds together to get the middle number. If it's a minus, I'll look for a pair that has a difference or subtracts to get 11. Okay, so I looked over here and said, 5 and 6 add together to get 11x. And here's what I'm going to do with those. Okay, I'm going to rewrite that 11x as 5x and 6x. And of course, to add to get back together to get 11x, I'll have to have a plus there and a plus there. And then I'm just going to bring these two down along for the ride, I like to say. Okay, so I've simply rewritten this expression with the middle term expanded, and I chose the numbers based on the process of look for a pair that adds together to get this number, 5 and 6. Okay, now, for now, I want you to ignore that these two terms exist. Just ignore them and focus just on this pair. And I'm going to ask, what's the biggest thing I could factor out or divide out from these two? And that would be an x. Okay, what's left over? Well, x times 2x gets me 2x squared, and x times 5 gets me 5x. So I've factored those first two terms. Now, ignore all this stuff and focus on this pair. Ask the same question. What's the biggest thing that divides out of both of those? Well, 3 divides out of 6x and 15. Since that's a plus sign, I'm going to put a plus 3 right there. Okay, and then what would be left over there? I hope it's 2x plus 5, and you'll see why in just a second. Well, 3 times 2x gets me 6x, and 3 times positive 5 gets me 15. Okay, so I've just split those two pairs of terms up. Now here's the final thing here. Each of these terms right here, this term right here, and that term right there, have something in common, a 2x plus 5. Well, if they have something in common, then I can take that thing they have in common, the 2x plus 5, and I can factor it out of the whole expression. Now, what's left over from this part right here when you divide out 2x plus 5? X. What's left over from this part when you divide out 2x plus 5? Positive 3. Okay? We've now factored that expression. Okay? And if you remultiply these together, you get the original expression. Let's do another one. Okay? This one, I've already written out all the factor pairs for 120. And again, I got the 120 by multiplying 10 by 12. And I'm looking for a pair that adds together to get 23. Well, that would be 8 and 15. So I'll do the same thing. I'll write this as 8x and 15x. And then the only way for those to add together to get positive 23 would be if they were both positive. And then I'll bring the other two down just like I did before. Okay. Again, ignore this pair and look at this pair. The biggest thing I could divide out of 10x squared and 8x is 2 and x. Okay. I can divide out a 2 and I can divide out an x. What's left over? Well, 2x times 5x would get me 10x squared. And 2x times positive 4 would get me 8x. Okay? So now, ignore this pair. Look at this pair. What's the biggest thing I can divide out? Positive 3. In the parentheses, I hope I get 5x plus 4. Let's see if I do. 3 times 5x gets me 15x, and 3 times positive 4 gets me 12. Nice. Now, this one and this one, these two terms, share a 5x plus 4, so that's what I'll factor out. And what's left over? Divide out of 5x plus 4 from this, you get 2x. Divide out of 5x plus 4 from that, and you get plus 3. Now we're factored. Okay. This one, aha, this says minus, so now I'm looking for a pair that subtracts to get 11. Well, that'd be 1 and 12. So I'm going to take those two numbers, 1 and 12, with x's. I do need to check and see if I gave them both plus signs, they'd add together to get 11. So I'm going to give this one a minus sign and this a positive 12. So now those combined together get positive 11x. Okay, bring down the other two here. Focus again on the first two. What's the biggest thing that divides out of both of those? Just an x. And you get 3x minus 1. Okay, over here, what's the biggest thing that divides out of here? A positive 3. And what's left over? I hope it's 3x minus 1. Let's, wow, positive 3. I blew that one. Okay, try again. Biggest thing that divides out of there is positive 4. Nice catch. Okay, and then what's left over inside? 3x minus 1, just like I was hoping for. Okay, and now each of them has a 3x minus 1, so factor that out, and you're left with x plus 4. There's the factored form of that trinomial. Okay, one more. I already multiplied the 6 and 10 and got 60 and wrote all the factor pairs. I'm looking for a pair that adds together to get 19. That'd be 4 and 15. So we'll take that, split it up, 4x, 15x. And now the only way for them to combine together to get negative 19 is if they both had negative signs. Bring the first one and the last one down. Again, focus on this pair for right now. The biggest thing that divides out of both those is a 2 and an x. Okay, and what's left over? 3x and minus 2. Okay, now be sure you factor out from this pair, the biggest thing you can divide out is 5, but make it a negative 5. Bring a negative down here, and you'll see why in just a second. Okay, so since that's a minus, bring a minus down here. In parentheses, I hope I get 3x minus 2. Okay, well, let's check. Negative 5 times 3x gets me my negative 15x. And negative 5 times minus 2 times negative 2 gets me positive 10. So you had to make sure you pull that negative 5 out of there so you get the right signs. Once again, each of these has a 3x minus 2, so factor that out. Write the leftovers inside. This one, when you divide out the 3x minus 2, you get 2x. This one, when you divide it out, you get minus 5. There's the factored form. Okay, that's it.